can just see, I'm going to work on number 2. Right, we talked about sketching compositional thumbnails. I've got a ruler, and then I have a pencil, right? You have multiple pencils in your pack that you have. If I pull out a sketching pencil, I'm going to pull out an H pencil, and I'll start it with that. I might have to draw a little bit darker for you to be able to see. So on mine, I might use something that comes out a little bit darker. But for you, you just want to draw lightly, because whatever you draw in here, there's my 2H. Whatever you draw in here, you want to be able to erase it so that it's not in your final drawing. Okay, so since we're working with step number 2, and we've got a sketchbook that is 12 inches across, right? We want to break that up into 3. So can somebody write in the chat, what do each of my 3 columns need to be as far as how many inches? What's 12 divided by 3? Thank you, Lily. I know, I'm sorry. So I'm going to make sure that each one of the times that I line this up, I am lining up this edge with this line for the 12. That might sound silly that I'm going over that, right? But sometimes people forget. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. For the 1, right? I gotta, like, the inch starts here and goes to here. I don't want to start with the edge of the ruler, because then it's off with my measurements. So I'm going to start with the long line that starts where the inch is, right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move it over, mark 4 and 8. And then I'm going to have 4 inches, 4 inches, and 4 inches. Now, another thing that I want to do to make sure that I have correct measurements is, instead of flipping this around or do anything else, I just flow down to the bottom of the page. Let's get there, right? I'm going to start with the end line, matching up to the edge of the paper here. And then I'm going to mark 4 right above the line, not above the actual number, right? Because the line delineates where the measurement is. And 8. Okay. Get up here a little bit. And then I can connect. I'm going to connect the first 2. And if I draw really lightly, I can just set my pencil on here and just real lightly, like hardly see the line, but you're not going to be able to see it. So I'm going to draw a little bit darker than that. You should use a 2H, and you shouldn't really be able to see your lines very well. There we go. There's my HB pencil. So you can kind of see, I'll have that line on there. Okay. You use like a 2H or something and draw really super lightly. Okay. So now I've got my grid started. I'm hoping you can see that. Okay. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to measure all the way up into the spiral bound, because if I took this out of my notebook, I would not want to go up to there. So I am going to place right along the edge. This is a 9 by 12 piece of paper, but we're going to actually treat it more like it's like an 8 3/4, right? So I'm going to start my piece here, and now I've got 8 inches and about 3/4 of an inch here. So 1 2 3 2 3 1 2 3 would be, it would squish it down quite a bit, or I can go up to here and do 9 from the back edge here. I like the way it looks with the 9 from the back edge here. And we're going to do 3 into 9. And how many times can we do 3 into 9? We're going to do 3 inches. So I'm going to mark where it says 3 and where it says 6 on the line, right? And how I did that was I put the 9 line, the measurement for the 9, equal with the bottom of the page. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm not measuring from the top, I'm measuring from the bottom of the page. Putting the 9 there. going up 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then I'm going to carefully connect those. And remember that you are using a 2H pencil or something like that, and you are not drawing as dark as I am, because I want you to be able to see it. And if I were doing it as lightly as I should, you wouldn't be able to see it. Now I have my rule of thirds grids. I have the cross sections that I had on here before, right? And what I can do from here is I can look at the original drawing and be drawing it from the original drawing into here. Or I can look at that compositional drawing that I've already broken it down into like a more easily readable just outline of everything, and I could use that to transfer my drawing onto this area. Remember that you're drawing lightly for anything that you put in here, because you want to be able to erase. Plus, you don't want your pencil to dig down into your paper and leave any of those white lines, right? So you're working with a 2H or a 4H pencil really super lightly. Grab the printout here. Here it is. Okay. So I have now this printout that I had the outline, and you can just look at it on your screen. But I'm going to put it under here so that you can see it as I'm drawing. And this is what you're doing today. You're transferring onto final paper. So I can, again, look at this, or I can look at my photos that I had originally if I feel like I don't really want to go with this now, if I need to adjust angles. For me, I think that what I might do is go from the photo, because I noticed that I made this straight across in this compositional drawing, but in this one it goes at an angle more right here, right? So I set my compositional photo right here to look at, and I can say, okay, this line right here, that's about center of here. That's where that angle will be, and it's down, not quite halfway. So I'm going to go center in this one, right? And say that it's not quite halfway, it's about here. So this is the dot I need to connect to. And you already know how to do this because we talked about how to do this, right? And then I'm going to do the top portion and figure out where this line comes down to. It meets right at that intersection right there, right? So I definitely need for this to go up a bit. This is where that, right? Start drawing in your compositional drawing. And then this piece curves around. And about halfway through, this is going to go up here like this. And then this piece has to go from here to here. And I can actually just use my ruler for that because I need that little bit of that top part. Something like that. And then it comes down and almost hits, if this is where that rule of thirds was, let's look at this again. This is where the rule of thirds is coming through my picture there, and there, and there. Something like that. Then you can kind of see, if I hold it up to you, you can kind of see this comes down almost right where that bottom part connects there. So if I want to do that, I can then use all of my skills of observation to map this out. and put in a little bit too much. Here we go. And put in all of these areas. And I go back in and say, okay, if halfway down is right about there, this comes almost up halfway, but it doesn't hit halfway here. So I'm going to say that it's shorter than halfway. This is about halfway here, right? I could measure it, right? I could say, I could not eyeball it, and I could measure it and say like, okay, it's 4 inches. Halfway would be the 2 mark, and I'm right there, right? And it doesn't come in quite halfway. So let's say it comes in here, and it goes up to almost halfway with my 3 inches here. So about to the 2 or so. And then I can get that line going up there. So I'm going to take my time a little bit more on final paper, mapping out this composition, putting in the outline of like where everything will go compositionally. Okay, I want to give you some class time to do this right now so that you can go in your sketchbook, find a clean page that doesn't have anything on the back so you don't have to worry about anything coming through. And I want you to put in your grid and start mapping out your compositional drawing. We're going to take the same steps that we had previously done to put it on final paper. So compositional drawing was step number 2. We already have step number 1 because you have your compositions. And then you're going to move into step 3, which was adding detail to your compositions. And then step 4 and 5, you can do any kind of extra studies that you need to do, but I think you're pretty good. You could probably just jump right in and start shading after you're done erasing the grid. Okay, before we move into studio time where everyone's working, do you have any questions that I can help you out with? No questions, comments, or concerns? Is pretty straightforward, right? Awesome. Grab your sketchbook, get out your pencils, and let's get started. I'll continue to draw here in front of you. I'd like you to draw there. If you don't mind putting your camera like I have on your artwork as you're drawing, I would really like for you to turn on your camera so that I can see your artwork as you're working in it. Okay. I'll continue to use a bit of a darker pencil that cuts that corner there and curves down like this. Everybody should be starting their work. That's further up. Are you dusting? My daughter is dusting. I think this should go up here more. It's too small. I'm looking at this one. Yeah, hon. I don't want to add too many details to it when I first get started because I really want to erase those grids before I get too terribly detailed. Otherwise, you have to go in and erase them later, and that gives you have to work around all your details that you've put in. Yeah, I am having trouble with that handle there, so I'm going to have to go back into that. So right now you should be using this class time to work on drawing that outline in. Okay. Well, that's too high up. I'm not looking at my grid. I need this to be here. And then this has to be down a little bit. Yep. Perfect. Just getting it started, mapping out where things go. This actually does, this is a good angle on this one, better than my last one, so I'll put that in. And if you have a straight line, I have a metal straight line from a measuring tape, I should be using a ruler instead of eyeballing, sketching it out. Makes it easier. This flower comes right, just kind of kisses this line right here. So I'm just going to bring it up. Let's see if I broke that in half. It would be almost halfway across. So I'm going to see that eyeballing it about to there for my flower. Remember, we're just getting the general area in here that something takes up. So that's going to be the flower. And then there is another flower over here that just kind of comes in over here. This piece comes down here. Okay. And this flower is actually supposed to overlap that. And this goes in here. And this goes not quite straight down, but there. Map out where things should go in comparison to